"Sleep outside!" the woman shouted, locking the glass door. The triplets sat on their soggy mattress in the pouring rain, hugging their knees. They shivered violently. "Daddy, help us," they whispered. Suddenly, bright headlights blinded them. A luxury car pulled into the driveway. The dad stepped out into the rain, and his scream of rage shook the house. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel, and let's get started. "Girls, come down for breakfast. I made your favorite pancakes." Victoria's voice floated up the stairs, sweet and warm like honey. Emma Thompson opened her eyes in the bedroom she shared with her two sisters. She was 8 years old. Her stomach tightened with fear, even though the words sounded nice. "Is Daddy home?" Sophie whispered from the bed next to Emma's. Emma sat up and looked at her youngest sister. Sophie had the same brown hair and green eyes as Emma. They were triplets. All three of them looked almost the same. "I think so," Emma said quietly. "Victoria only sounds happy when Daddy is here." Lily, their third sister, coughed from her bed by the window. "We should go down. We do not want to make her angry." The three girls climbed out of bed. They put on their clothes quickly, pink shirts and blue jeans. They walked down the stairs of their big white mansion in Beverly Hills, California. The house had 12 rooms and a huge backyard with a swimming pool. Their father was rich. He sold houses and buildings for his job. In the kitchen, their father Richard sat at the table reading the newspaper. He was tall with dark hair that had some gray in it. He looked up and smiled when he saw his daughters. "Good morning, my girls," Richard said. Victoria stood at the stove flipping pancakes. She was beautiful with blonde hair and blue eyes. She wore a white dress and smiled at the girls. "Sit down, sweethearts," Victoria said. "Breakfast is almost ready." Emma sat at the table between her sisters. She watched Victoria put pancakes on plates. Victoria added butter and syrup. She brought the plates to the table and set them down gently. "There you go," Victoria said. She touched Sophie's hair softly. "Eat up." Richard smiled at Victoria. "You are so good to them." Victoria kissed Richard's cheek. "They are wonderful girls. I am lucky to be their stepmother." Emma looked down at her pancakes. Her mother died 3 years ago in a car accident. Emma still remembered her real mother's laugh and her warm hugs. 6 months ago, their father married Victoria. Before the wedding, Victoria brought them presents and smiled all the time. After the wedding, everything changed, but only when their father was not home. "Daddy, are you working today?" Lily asked in her quiet voice. Richard folded his newspaper. "Yes, honey, but I will be home for dinner. Actually, I have some news. I have to go on a business trip next week." Emma's heart dropped into her stomach. "Where are you going?" Sophie asked. "San Francisco," Richard said. "Just for 2 days. I leave Monday morning and come back Wednesday evening." 2 days is not so long," Victoria said quickly. She put her hand on Richard's shoulder. "The girls and I will be fine. We will have fun together. Right, girls?" Emma forced herself to nod. Lily looked at her plate. Sophie's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them away. Richard looked at his daughters carefully. "Are you girls okay? You seem sad lately." "They just miss you when you travel," Victoria said before anyone could answer. "But we understand. Your work is important." Richard reached across the table and squeezed Emma's hand. "I love you, girls. You know that, right?" "We know, Daddy," Emma said. After breakfast, Victoria braided Sophie's hair. She sat Sophie on a chair in the living room. Richard watched from the couch. "Your hair is so pretty," Victoria said. Her fingers moved gently through Sophie's hair, making a perfect braid. "Just like a princess." Sophie smiled a little. "Thank you." Richard stood up. "I need to get ready for work. Victoria, thank you for taking such good care of my daughters." "Of course," Victoria said. "They are my daughters too now." Richard kissed each girl goodbye. He hugged Victoria. Then he left through the front door. Emma heard his car start and drive away. Victoria finished Sophie's braid. She tied it with a pink ribbon. Then her hands stopped moving. Her face changed. The warm smile disappeared. Her eyes turned cold. "Go clean your room," Victoria said. Her voice was different now, sharp and mean. "All three of you. I want it perfect. If I find one toy on the floor, you will be sorry." Sophie's smile vanished. The three girls ran upstairs to their bedroom. The weekend passed. Richard was home, so Victoria acted sweet. She read them bedtime stories. She made their favorite foods. She laughed and played games with them. Monday morning came too fast. Emma woke up early. She heard her father's footsteps in the hallway. She jumped out of bed and ran to the door. Richard stood there with his suitcase. "Daddy, please do not go," Emma said. The words came out before she could stop them. Richard bent down and hugged her. "I have to, sweetheart. It is only 2 days. Victoria will take good care of you." Emma wanted to tell him the truth. She wanted to say that Victoria was mean when he left, that Victoria yelled at them, that Victoria locked the food away and only gave them bread. But Victoria's warning echoed in Emma's mind. "Nobody will believe you," Victoria had said 1 week ago. "Your father loves me. If you tell lies about me, he will send you away to boarding school far from here. You will never see him again." Emma was too scared to risk it. "I love you, Daddy," Emma said instead. "I love you too," Richard said. He kissed her forehead. Richard went downstairs. Emma heard him say goodbye to Lily and Sophie. She heard the front door close. She heard his black Mercedes SUV start and drive down the long driveway. Emma ran to the window. She watched the car disappear around the corner. Behind her, she heard footsteps. Slow footsteps. Emma turned around. Victoria stood in the doorway of the bedroom. Her face was cold and angry. The sweet stepmother was gone. The real Victoria was here now. "Get dressed," Victoria said. Her voice was like ice. "You have 5 minutes. Then you will clean this entire house, every room, every floor, every window, and if I hear one complaint, you will regret it." Lily started crying quietly. Sophie grabbed Emma's hand. Victoria smiled, but it was not a nice smile. "Your father is gone now, for 2 whole days. That means I make the rules. Do you understand?" "Yes," Emma whispered. "Good," Victoria said. She turned and walked away. Emma pulled her sisters close. "It is only 2 days," she said, trying to sound brave. "We can survive 2 days." But deep in her chest, Emma felt afraid. 2 days felt like forever. The morning passed slowly. The girls cleaned the bathroom. They scrubbed the kitchen floor on their hands and knees. They washed all the windows. Victoria watched them and yelled if they missed a spot. "You call that clean?" Victoria shouted when Lily wiped a counter. "Do it again." At lunchtime, Sophie asked for food. Her stomach was growling. Victoria opened the refrigerator. She took out 1 loaf of bread. She gave each girl 1 slice of plain bread and 1 cup of water. "This is your lunch," Victoria said. "Can we have peanut butter?" Sophie asked in a small voice. "No," Victoria said. "You do not deserve it. Now eat and get back to work." The girls sat at the kitchen table and ate their bread slowly. It was dry and hard to swallow. Emma watched through the window as other children played outside in their yards. Those children were laughing. They looked happy and safe. Emma wished someone would help them. She wished someone would see what was happening in this big white mansion. But nobody knew. Victoria was too good at pretending. That afternoon, Victoria sat on the couch eating a big sandwich with meat and cheese. She drank lemonade. The girls were still hungry. They watched her from the kitchen where they were washing dishes. Victoria saw them watching. She laughed. "If you worked harder, maybe you would earn a real meal." That night, the girls went to bed with empty stomachs. They lay in their beds in the dark. "I hate her," Sophie whispered. "Do not say that," Emma said. "We have to be strong. Daddy will come home Wednesday." "What if she does something worse?" Lily asked. Her voice shook with fear. "We will be careful," Emma said. "We will not give her any reason to get angry." But Emma did not believe her own words. Victoria did not need a reason. She was angry all the time when their father was gone. The next day was worse. Victoria made them clean the garage. She made them pull weeds in the garden for 3 hours. Lily had an asthma attack from working so hard in the heat. She could not breathe well. She needed her inhaler. "Please, I need my medicine," Lily gasped. Victoria held the inhaler in her hand. She waited. She counted to 60 before she gave it to Lily. "Stop being so weak," Victoria said. "You are pathetic." Emma felt rage building inside her, but she was 8 years old and small. Victoria was an adult. There was nothing Emma could do. Wednesday evening finally came. Richard's car pulled into the driveway. Victoria's face changed instantly. The cold, mean expression disappeared. The warm smile returned. "Girls," Victoria called sweetly, "your father is home. Come help me set the table for dinner." The 3 girls came downstairs. Victoria had cooked chicken, rice, and vegetables. The house smelled good. The table looked perfect. Richard walked through the door. "I am home!" The girls ran to him. They hugged him tight. Richard laughed and hugged them back. "Did you miss me?" Richard asked. "Yes," all 3 girls said together. "How was everything here?" Richard asked Victoria. "Perfect," Victoria said. She smiled. The girls were angels. Richard looked at his daughters carefully. Emma saw his eyes move over their faces. He looked like he was searching for something, like he knew something was wrong but could not figure out what. "You girls look tired," Richard said slowly. "We played hard," Victoria said quickly. "You know how children are." Richard's eyes stayed on Emma's face. Emma wanted to tell him everything. The words were right there in her throat. But then she saw Victoria's warning look over Richard's shoulder, a look that said, "Say nothing or suffer." Emma looked away. Richard frowned. He looked troubled, but he did not ask more questions. That night, after dinner, Richard stood in the doorway of the girls' bedroom. Emma was already in bed. Richard came and sat next to her. "Emma, are you sure everything is okay?" he asked quietly. Emma's heart pounded. This was her chance. She could tell him. She could save them. But fear closed her throat. "Everything is fine, Daddy," Emma lied. Richard studied her face for a long moment, then he kissed her good night and left. Emma lay in the dark and felt tears run down her face. She had been too scared, too weak. But Richard had noticed something. Emma saw it in his eyes. Maybe next time she would be brave enough to tell him the truth. Emma heard her father's footsteps fade down the hallway. She stared at the dark ceiling. Her chest hurt from holding in the truth. "Emma?" Sophie whispered from the next bed. "Are you awake?" "Yes," Emma said quietly. "I wanted to tell Daddy too," Sophie said, "but I was too scared." Lily coughed softly. "Did you see his face? He knows something is wrong. He was looking at us like he was trying to figure it out." Emma turned on her side to face her sisters. In the darkness, she could barely see their shapes. "Maybe next time he asks, we can tell him together," Emma said. "All 3 of us. He would have to believe all 3 of us." "But what if Victoria finds out we told?" Sophie asked. Her voice shook. "What if she sends us away like she said?" "I do not know," Emma admitted. "I am scared too." The girls fell silent. Eventually, they fell asleep. The next morning was Thursday. Emma woke up to voices downstairs. She sat up in bed. Her stomach felt tight. Lily and Sophie were already awake. "Daddy is still home," Lily said. "I heard him talking." The girls got dressed and went downstairs. In the kitchen, Richard sat at the table drinking coffee. Victoria stood at the stove cooking eggs and bacon. The smell made Emma's stomach growl. They had barely eaten in 2 days. "Good morning, girls," Richard said. He smiled, but his eyes still had that worried look from last night. "Good morning, Daddy," the girls said together. Victoria turned from the stove. She was smiling her fake sweet smile. "Sit down, sweethearts. I am making a special breakfast. Scrambled eggs, bacon, and toast." The girls sat at the table. Victoria brought plates piled with food. Emma stared at the eggs. After 2 days of plain bread, this looked like a feast. But her stomach was so tight with anxiety she could barely eat. Richard watched his daughters push food around their plates. "Girls, are you feeling okay?" he asked. "You are not eating much." "We are fine, Daddy," Emma said quietly. Richard's frown deepened. He looked at Victoria. "Have they been eating normally while I was gone?" "Of course," Victoria said smoothly. "They have been eating just fine. Maybe they are not hungry this morning." Richard did not look convinced. He reached across the table and felt Emma's forehead. "You do not have a fever, but you all look tired. Are you sleeping well?" Emma wanted to scream. She wanted to tell him they were tired because they had been working like slaves, because Victoria starved them, because they cried themselves to sleep every night he was gone. But Victoria stood behind Richard where he could not see her face. Her eyes were cold and threatening. "We are sleeping fine," Emma lied. Richard sat back in his chair. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that made Emma's heart drop. "I have to go on another business trip," Richard said. He looked unhappy about it. "To New York City. I leave tonight at 6 o'clock. Sophie's fork clattered onto her plate. "Tonight?" Lily whispered. "For how long?" Emma asked. Her voice came out strange and tight. 3 days, Richard said. "I will be back Sunday evening. I am sorry, girls. This is an important client. I have to go." Emma felt like she could not breathe. 3 days. 3 whole days alone with Victoria. "Can we come with you?" Sophie asked suddenly. Richard looked surprised. "To New York? You have school, honey." "We could miss school," Sophie said. Tears filled her eyes. "Please, Daddy, we want to go with you." Richard looked at Victoria, then back at his daughters. "Why do you want to come? You have never asked to come on a business trip before." Victoria moved quickly. She sat down next to Richard and took his hand. "Darling, I think the girls are just having trouble adjusting. It has only been 6 months since we got married. They probably feel like you are leaving them with a stranger." She turned to the girls and smiled. "But we are a family now. We need to learn to spend time together, just us girls. We can have fun. We can watch movies and bake cookies. Right, girls?" Emma could not speak. The thought of 3 days with Victoria made her feel sick. "I do not want Daddy to go," Sophie said. Tears ran down her face. Richard stood up and went to Sophie. He hugged her. "I know, baby. I do not want to go either. But I will be back before you know it. 3 days will go fast." Sophie cried into her father's shirt. Richard looked troubled. He held Sophie and looked at Emma and Lily. "Is there something you girls want to tell me?" This was the moment. Emma opened her mouth. Victoria stood up. "Richard, you are going to be late for work. The girls are fine. They are just emotional today." Richard hesitated. He looked at the clock on the wall. "You are right. I have a meeting in 40 minutes. He kissed Sophie's head. "I have to go to the office now, but I will be home at 5 o'clock to say goodbye properly before I leave for New York." He kissed each girl and left. The moment the front door closed, Victoria's smile disappeared. "Clean up this kitchen," she said coldly, "and do not ever ask to go with your father again. You stay here, with me. Do you understand?" "Yes," Emma whispered. The day passed slowly. The girls cleaned. They were quiet and careful. They tried not to make any mistakes. They did not want to make Victoria angry. At 5 o'clock, Richard came home. He looked tired. His briefcase was heavy with papers, but he smiled when he saw his daughters. "There are my girls," he said. The girls ran to him. They hugged him tight. "I am going to miss you," Richard said. He held them close. "Be good for Victoria, okay?" Emma buried her face in her father's jacket. She wanted to hold on forever. She wanted to keep him home. But at 6 o'clock, Richard picked up his suitcase. He kissed Victoria goodbye. He kissed each daughter one more time. "I love you, girls," he said. "I will call you every night." Then he walked out the door. The girls stood at the window and watched. Richard put his suitcase in the trunk of his black Mercedes SUV. He got in the driver's seat. He waved at them through the window. Then he drove down the long driveway. The car turned onto the street. The car disappeared. Victoria stood behind the girls. Nobody spoke. The house was very quiet. Then Victoria walked to the couch and sat down. "You girls can play in your room until dinner," she said. Her voice was cold but not angry yet. The girls went upstairs quickly. They sat on Emma's bed together. 3 days, Lily said. She looked terrified. "We just have to be very careful," Emma said. "We cannot make any mistakes." "I will not touch anything," Sophie said. "I will not spill anything. I will not make her mad." The hours passed. At 8 o'clock, the girls heard Victoria moving around downstairs in the kitchen. Sophie stood up. "I am so thirsty. Can I go get water?" "I will come with you," Emma said. "No," Sophie said. "I can do it by myself. I will just get water and come right back." Emma did not want Sophie to go alone, but Sophie was already walking out of the bedroom. Emma and Lily waited. 1 minute passed, 2 minutes. Then they heard it. The crash of breaking glass, the splash of liquid hitting the floor, and Victoria's scream. "What did you do?" Emma and Lily jumped up and ran out of the bedroom. They flew down the stairs. In the kitchen, Sophie stood frozen. Her hands were empty. A broken glass lay on the white tile floor. Orange juice spread everywhere. It covered the floor, it splashed on the cabinets, and it covered Victoria's shoes. Expensive white designer shoes that now dripped with orange juice. Victoria stood very still. Her face was red. Her hands were fists at her sides. Sophie was crying. "I am sorry. I am so sorry. It slipped. My hands were shaking and it slipped." Victoria's scream came again, louder this time. "You ruined them. These shoes cost $600. Emma and Lily ran into the kitchen. Emma put herself between Victoria and Sophie. "It was an accident," Emma said. Her voice shook. "We will clean it up. We will clean everything." Victoria grabbed Emma's arm. Her fingers dug in hard. Emma cried out in pain. "You girls think you can do whatever you want," Victoria said. Her voice was low and shaking with rage. "You think you can destroy my things and say sorry and everything is fine." She dragged Emma across the kitchen. Lily and Sophie followed, both crying. "You need to learn," Victoria said. "You need to learn what real consequences feel like." "Please," Sophie sobbed. "Please, I did not mean to." Victoria stopped at the bottom of the stairs. She looked up toward the second floor. Then she looked at the 3 girls. "Go upstairs," Victoria said. Her voice was deadly calm now. "Get your mattress. Bring it down here." "What?" Emma said. "Now!" Victoria screamed. The girls ran upstairs. They went to their bedroom. Together they pulled the mattress off Emma's bed. It was heavy and awkward. They dragged it to the doorway. "Why does she want the mattress?" Lily asked between coughs. "I do not know," Emma said. They pulled the mattress down the stairs. It bumped on each step. Victoria stood at the bottom waiting. Her face was cold and set. "Take it outside," Victoria said. "Outside?" Sophie whispered. Victoria walked to the glass sliding door that led to the backyard garden. She unlocked it and slid it open. Cold air rushed into the house. "Take the mattress outside right now," Victoria said. Emma's blood turned to ice. "No, please, it is cold outside." "I said now," Victoria said. The girls had no choice. They dragged the mattress through the door and onto the grass. The sky was dark. Heavy clouds covered the stars. The air smelled like rain. Victoria stood in the doorway. She looked down at the 3 girls in their thin pink pajamas. "You will sleep out here tonight," Victoria said. "All 3 of you. and you will think about what you did wrong. Please, Emma begged, please do not do this. We will do anything. We will clean for a whole week. Just let us stay inside. It is too late for that, Victoria said. She stepped back inside. She grabbed the glass door handle. Please! All three girls screamed. Victoria slid the door shut. She locked it with a click. The girls ran to the door. They pulled on the handle. They banged on the glass with their fists. Let us in! Emma shouted. Please! Victoria stood on the other side of the glass. She looked at them for a long moment. Her face showed nothing. No pity, no guilt, nothing. Then she reached up and pulled the curtains closed. The girls were left standing in the dark backyard. The clouds above them grew heavier and darker, and the first drops of rain began to fall. The rain touched Emma's face. Small drops at first, then more, then even more. Get on the mattress, Emma said to her sisters. We need to stay together. The three girls climbed onto the mattress that lay on the grass. They sat close, their arms wrapped around each other. The thin pink pajamas they wore were already getting damp. I am cold, Sophie said. Her teeth were starting to chatter. Hold on to me, Emma said. She put one arm around Sophie and one arm around Lily. We will keep each other warm. Lily coughed. Her breathing was already getting rough. The cold air was bad for her asthma. Are you okay? Emma asked. My chest hurts, Lily whispered. I need my inhaler. It is inside on my nightstand. Emma looked at the glass door. The curtains were closed. She could see a small gap where light came through. Victoria! Emma shouted. Lily needs her medicine. Please, she has asthma. No answer came. The curtains did not move. Emma shouted again. Please, she cannot breathe well. She needs her inhaler. Still nothing. The rain fell harder. Within minutes, the girls' hair was soaked. Water ran down their faces. Their pajamas stuck to their skin. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Sophie screamed and buried her face against Emma's shoulder. It is okay, Emma said, but her own voice shook. It is just noise. It cannot hurt us. I am so sorry, Sophie cried. This is my fault. I dropped the glass. I made her angry. This is all my fault. No, Emma said firmly. She grabbed Sophie's face in her hands and made Sophie look at her. This is not your fault. Do you hear me? You made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. Victoria is the one doing something wrong, not you. But I ruined her shoes, Sophie sobbed. They are just shoes, Emma said. You are a person. A person is more important than shoes. Victoria is wrong. She is cruel and wrong. Lily coughed harder. Her breathing made a wheezing sound. Emma held her sister tighter. Try to breathe slowly, Emma said. In and out. Slow breaths. Lily tried, but each breath was a struggle. The rain poured down now. Not gentle drops anymore. Hard, cold rain that soaked everything. The mattress beneath them absorbed the water. It became heavy and wet. Water pooled on top of it. There was no dry place to sit. Lightning flashed across the sky. For 1 second, the backyard was bright as daytime. Then darkness again. Thunder crashed so loud that all three girls screamed. They held each other and shook, from cold, from fear, from both. Emma looked at the house. Through the gap in the curtains, she could see movement inside. Victoria was there, in the warm, dry house. Victoria! Emma screamed as loud as she could. Please let us in. We are freezing. The curtain moved slightly. Emma saw Victoria's face appear for just a second. Then the face disappeared. The curtain closed completely. She heard us, Lily said between coughs. She heard us, and she does not care. Time passed. Emma did not know how much time. It felt like hours, but maybe it was only minutes. Everything hurt. Her fingers hurt from the cold. Her legs hurt from shaking. Her throat hurt from screaming. Sophie had stopped crying. She just stared straight ahead with empty eyes. Her lips were starting to turn pale. Sophie, talk to me, Emma said. Say something. I am tired, Sophie whispered. I want to sleep. No, Emma said. She shook Sophie gently. You cannot sleep. We have to stay awake." But Emma was tired too, so tired, and cold, colder than she had ever been in her life. More lightning, more thunder. The storm was directly above them now. Lily's coughing got worse. Each cough shook her whole small body. She could not catch her breath between coughs. "Hold on," Emma told her. "Just hold on." Emma looked at the house again. This time she saw Victoria clearly. Victoria had opened the curtains a little. She stood at the window holding a glass of red wine. She was looking right at them. Emma stared back. Their eyes met through the glass. Victoria raised her wine glass. She smiled. Then she took a long drink. She was making a toast to their suffering. Victoria laughed. Emma could not hear it through the glass, but she saw Victoria's mouth open in laughter. Then Victoria turned away. The curtains closed again. Something broke inside Emma in that moment. The fear that had controlled her for 6 months cracked and fell away. In its place came rage, hot, burning rage. "She is not going to get away with this," Emma said out loud. "What?" Lily asked weakly. "Victoria," Emma said. Her voice was stronger now despite her shaking. "She thinks she can do whatever she wants. She thinks nobody will ever know, but she is wrong." "What can we do?" Sophie asked. "We are just kids." "When Daddy comes home, we are going to tell him everything," Emma said. "All of it. Every single thing she did to us. He will believe us. He has to believe us." "But what if he does not?" Lily said. "What if Victoria lies and he believes her?" "Then we tell someone else," Emma said. "A teacher, a neighbor, anyone. We keep telling until someone helps us." "But we have to survive tonight first," Sophie said softly. "We will," Emma said. She pulled her sisters even closer. "We are going to survive, and then we are going to make sure Victoria pays for what she did." The rain pounded down. The wind picked up. The temperature dropped even more. Emma's whole body shook violently now. She could not stop it. Lily had stopped coughing only because she did not have enough air to cough. Sophie's skin felt like ice. "Tell me about Mommy," Sophie said suddenly. "What?" Emma asked. "Tell me something about Mommy," Sophie said. "Something happy. I am trying to remember her face, but I cannot." Emma closed her eyes. She thought about their mother, Catherine. The memories were fading. 3 years was a long time when you were only 8 years old. "Mommy used to sing to us," Emma said. "Every night before bed, she sang a song about stars." "I remember that," Lily whispered. "Twinkle, twinkle, little star." "She would sit on the edge of my bed and stroke my hair," Emma said, "and she would tell us she loved us more than all the stars in the sky." "I wish she was here," Sophie said. Tears mixed with rain on her face. "I wish she never died." "Me too," Emma said. "Me too." They sat in silence for a while. The only sounds were the rain hitting the grass, the thunder in the distance, and Lily's terrible breathing. Emma looked up at the dark sky. Rain hit her face. "Mommy," she whispered, "if you can hear me, please help us. Please help Daddy find us. Please." No answer came, just more rain, more cold, more darkness. Hours passed. Emma did not know how many. Time felt strange. Everything felt strange. She felt like she was floating outside her body, watching 3 small girls huddle together in the rain. Her mind started playing tricks on her. She thought she saw her mother standing in the garden, but when she blinked, nobody was there. "Emma." Lily's voice was so quiet Emma almost missed it. "I am here," Emma said. "I cannot feel my hands anymore," Lily said. Emma looked down at her own hands. They were white and wrinkled from the water. She tried to move her fingers. They moved slowly, like they did not belong to her. "It will be okay," Emma said. But she did not know if that was true anymore. Sophie had gone completely silent. Her eyes were closed. Emma shook her. "Sophie, wake up!" Sophie's eyes opened a little. "I am awake. I am just resting my eyes." "You have to stay awake," Emma said desperately. "Please, stay awake." But Emma was not sure how much longer she could stay awake either. She was so tired, so cold. Her body wanted to shut down, to sleep. She forced her eyes to stay open. She kept talking to her sisters. She told them stories. She sang songs, anything to keep them awake, to keep them alive. Through the window, Emma could still see light from inside the house. Victoria was in there, warm, dry, safe, while they were out here, cold, wet, dying. "I will never forgive her," Emma said. "Never." Thunder crashed again. Lightning lit up the sky, and somewhere far away in New York City, their father Richard sat in a hotel room, completely unaware that his daughters were fighting for their lives. Richard Thompson sat on the bed in his hotel room at the Marriott Marquis in Times Square, New York City. The meeting had gone well. He closed a deal worth $2 million. His client was happy. His business partners were happy. But Richard was not happy. He loosened his tie and looked at the clock on the nightstand. 9 o'clock in the evening. In California, it would be 6 o'clock. The girls would be finishing dinner soon. Richard picked up his phone. He wanted to hear their voices. He wanted to say goodnight. He dialed the house number. The phone rang. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. The voicemail picked up. Victoria's recorded voice said, "You have reached the Thompson residence. We cannot come to the phone right now. Please leave a message." Richard frowned. Where were they? He ended the call without leaving a message. Maybe they were in the bathroom. Or maybe the TV was too loud and they did not hear the phone. Richard waited 2 minutes. Then he called again. The phone rang and rang. No answer. Voicemail again. Richard stood up from the bed. He walked to the window and looked out at the lights of New York City. Something felt wrong. He could not explain it. It was just a feeling in his chest, like a weight pressing down. He called a 3rd time. Ring, 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 voicemail. Richard's hand tightened around the phone. Where was Victoria? Why was she not answering? He sat down in the desk chair and put his head in his hands. He tried to think logically. There were many reasons Victoria might not answer the phone. Maybe she took the girls out for ice cream. Maybe they were playing a game in the backyard. But the feeling would not go away. Richard thought about his daughters' faces when he left earlier today. Emma had hugged him so tight, she did not want to let go. When he finally pulled away, he saw tears in her eyes. "I will miss you, Daddy," Emma had said. At the time, Richard thought she was being emotional. Now he wondered if there was more to it. He thought about Sophie crying at breakfast this morning. She had asked to come to New York with him. That was strange. The girls had never wanted to come on business trips before. He thought about Lily, his quiet middle daughter who barely spoke anymore. She used to sing all the time. Now she hardly made a sound. When had that changed? When had his happy daughters become these sad, quiet children? Richard knew the answer. It had been gradual over the past 6 months, since he married Victoria. He had told himself the girls just needed time to adjust. A new stepmother was a big change. But what if it was more than that? Richard stood up suddenly. He paced the small hotel room, back and forth, back and forth. He thought about Victoria. Beautiful, charming Victoria. She had seemed perfect when he met her at that charity event in Los Angeles 1 year ago. She said all the right things. She was sweet to his daughters. She said she wanted to be a mother to them. Richard had been so lonely after Catherine died. Raising 3 daughters alone was hard. Working constantly was hard. He wanted help. He wanted his girls to have a mother figure. So he married Victoria quickly. Maybe too quickly. He barely knew her when he proposed. 6 months of dating, then a wedding, then she moved into their home. Had that been a mistake? Richard sat down on the bed again. He tried calling home one more time. No answer. He looked at his schedule on his phone. Tomorrow he had 3 meetings. Friday he had 2 more meetings. Then Saturday morning he would fly home. 2 more days away from his daughters. 2 more days while this terrible feeling ate at him. Richard made a decision. He called the hotel front desk. "This is Richard Thompson in room 814. I need to check out tonight." "Tonight, sir?" the woman at the desk asked. "Is everything all right?" "Family emergency," Richard said. "I need to leave as soon as possible." "Of course, sir. We will prepare your bill." Richard hung up. He opened his laptop and went to the airline website. He searched for flights from New York to Los Angeles tonight. There was 1 seat left on the last flight. It departed from LaGuardia Airport at 10:30. That was in 1 hour and 30 minutes. Richard booked the seat. He did not care that it cost 3 times the normal price. He had to get home. He threw his clothes into his suitcase. He did not fold anything. He just grabbed shirts and pants and stuffed them in. He zipped the suitcase closed. He put on his jacket. He grabbed his laptop bag and his suitcase. He took one last look around the hotel room to make sure he had everything. Then he left. Richard took the elevator down to the lobby. He checked out at the front desk. The woman gave him his bill, but Richard barely looked at it. He handed her his credit card. "Is everything okay, Mr. Thompson?" she asked. "I need to get home to my daughters," Richard said. He signed the receipt. He grabbed his bags. He walked outside into the rainy New York night. A taxi pulled up. Richard threw his suitcase in the trunk and climbed into the back seat. "LaGuardia Airport," he said. "As fast as you can." The taxi driver nodded and pulled into traffic. Richard tried calling home again from the taxi. Still no answer. He left a voicemail this time. "Victoria, it is me. I have been trying to reach you. Please call me back. I need to know the girls are okay." He hung up and stared out the window. Rain streaked down the glass. The streets of New York were full of people and cars and lights. But Richard did not see any of it. He only saw his daughters' faces in his mind. Emma's serious green eyes, Lily's quiet sadness, Sophie's constant apologies. When had they stopped being children? When had they started looking so scared all the time? Richard had been blind. He worked too much. He traveled too much. He had not been paying attention. But he was paying attention now. The taxi pulled up to the airport. Richard paid the driver and grabbed his bags. He ran through the terminal. He checked in at the counter. He went through security. He made it to his gate just as they called for boarding. Richard found his seat on the plane. He was in the back row. The seat was small and uncomfortable. He did not care. The plane took off. Richard looked out the window at the lights of New York City falling away below. The plane climbed higher into the dark sky. The flight would take 5 hours. 5 hours while his daughters were alone with Victoria. Richard tried to sleep, but he could not. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Emma's face. He saw how she looked at him this morning. She had wanted to tell him something. He knew it, but she had been too afraid. Afraid of what? Richard's stomach tightened. What if Victoria was not the person she pretended to be? What if she was hurting his daughters? The thought made Richard feel sick, but once he thought it, he could not stop thinking it. All the signs were there. The girls' sadness, their fear, the way they did not want him to leave, the way they barely ate, the dark circles under Emma's eyes. How had he not seen it? Richard pressed his hands against his face. If Victoria had hurt his daughters, he would never forgive himself. He brought Victoria into their lives. He married her. He left his daughters alone with her. What kind of father was he? The plane flew through the dark night. Richard stared out the window and prayed. He was not a religious man, but he prayed anyway. "Please let them be okay," he whispered. "Please let me get there in time." The hours crawled by. Richard checked the time on his phone every few minutes. The flight felt endless. Finally, the pilot's voice came over the speaker. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are beginning our descent into Los Angeles. We will be landing in 15 minutes. Richard sat up straight. His heart pounded. He grabbed his phone. Still no messages from Victoria. Still no returned calls. The plane landed at Los Angeles International Airport at 11:30 at night. The moment the plane stopped moving, Richard unbuckled his seatbelt. He grabbed his laptop bag from under the seat. Other passengers were still sitting down, but Richard pushed past them to the aisle. "Excuse me, emergency. I need to get off." He ran off the plane. He ran through the terminal. He did not wait for his checked luggage. He only had his laptop bag. Richard ran to the parking garage. His black Mercedes SUV was right where he left it. He threw his bag in the back seat and climbed behind the wheel. He started the engine and pulled out of the parking space. He drove faster than he should through the parking garage. He paid at the exit gate and pulled onto the street. Rain pounded against the windshield. Richard turned on the wipers. He pressed the gas pedal down. The speedometer climbed. 40 miles per hour, 50, 60. The highway was mostly empty this late at night. Richard weaved around the few cars on the road. His phone rang. Richard grabbed it, hoping it was Victoria. But it was just an email notification. He threw the phone onto the passenger seat. Richard took the exit toward Beverly Hills. He ran a red light. There were no other cars, no one to see. He turned onto the residential streets. The big houses were all dark. Everyone was asleep. Everything looked peaceful. But Richard's heart raced. The terrible feeling in his chest had grown into panic. He turned onto his street. He could see his white mansion at the end of the block. All the lights were on downstairs. Richard pressed the gas pedal to the floor. The SUV shot forward. He pulled into the driveway. His headlights swept across the front of the house, then across the side yard, then across the backyard. Richard's heart stopped. 3 small figures sat huddled together on a mattress in the pouring rain. His daughters. Richard's hands were shaking. He could not move for 1 second. His brain could not understand what his eyes were seeing. His baby girls. Outside. In the freezing rain, soaking wet. Then his body moved. He threw the SUV into park. He did not turn off the engine. He did not close his door. He just ran. His shoes hit the wet grass. He slipped in the mud but did not fall. He kept running. Rain soaked through his business suit within seconds. "Emma! Lily! Sophie!" he shouted. The 3 small figures on the mattress looked up. Their faces were white. Their lips were blue. Their hair hung in wet strings. Richard reached the mattress and dropped to his knees in the mud. He did not care. Nothing mattered except his daughters. "Daddy?" Emma's voice came out like broken glass, rough and quiet and wrong. "I am here," Richard said. His voice cracked. "I am here now." He reached for them. His hands touched their skin. They were ice cold, colder than anything should be. Lily tried to speak but could only cough. Her small body shook with each cough. She could not catch her breath. Sophie reached toward Richard with trembling hands. Her fingers were white. Her whole body shook violently. "I am sorry, Daddy," Sophie whispered through blue lips. "I spilled the juice. This is my fault." Richard felt something break inside his chest. He gathered all 3 girls into his arms at once. They weighed almost nothing. They felt like frozen little birds. "This is not your fault," Richard said. His voice shook with rage. "None of this is your fault." He stood up, lifting all 3 girls with him. Water dripped from their soaked pajamas. Emma's head fell against his shoulder. Lily wheezed and coughed. Sophie's eyes were half closed. Richard ran toward the house. He kicked the glass sliding door, but it was locked. He ran around to the front of the house instead. The front door was unlocked. Richard kicked it open with his foot. The door slammed against the wall so hard it left a mark. Victoria jumped up from the couch. She had been sitting there watching television. A glass of red wine was in her hand. The glass fell from her fingers and shattered on the marble floor. Red wine spread across the white floor. Victoria's face went pale. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Richard stood in the doorway. Water poured off him and his daughters onto the floor. His face was something Victoria had never seen before. His eyes burned with rage. "Richard," Victoria said. Her voice came out high and shaky. "You are home. I did not expect you until Sunday." Richard did not respond. He carried his daughters to the couch and laid them down gently. He grabbed blankets from the hall closet and wrapped each girl in a blanket. Their small bodies shook so hard the blankets rustled. "Richard, I can explain," Victoria said. She took a step toward him. "Do not come near them," Richard said. His voice was low and deadly quiet. "Do not take one more step." Victoria stopped. She swallowed hard. Then words started pouring out of her mouth very fast. "The girls wanted to sleep outside," Victoria said. "They said they wanted to go camping. I told them no because of the rain, but they snuck out anyway. I was just about to bring them inside when you arrived. I am so glad you are home." Richard stood up slowly. He turned to face Victoria. The look on his face made her take a step backward. "You are lying," Richard said. "I am not," Victoria said. Tears started running down her face. "Why would I lie?" Richard pointed at the glass sliding door. "That door was locked. I saw you close the curtains. I saw you sitting on this couch drinking wine while my daughters froze outside in a storm." Victoria's tears stopped for just a second. Then she started crying harder. "You are misunderstanding. I locked the door so they would be safe, so nobody could break in." "Stop," Richard said. His voice got louder. "Stop lying to my face." He turned to Emma. His oldest daughter looked at him with eyes that seemed too old for an 8-year-old child. "Emma," Richard said gently. He knelt down next to the couch. "Tell me the truth. Did you want to go outside?" Emma's lip trembled. She looked at Victoria. Then she looked back at her father. "No," Emma whispered. "Victoria made us go outside." "She is lying," Victoria said quickly. "She is upset and confused." Richard ignored Victoria. He kept his eyes on Emma. "Why did Victoria make you go outside?" "Sophie spilled orange juice," Emma said. Her voice shook. "It was an accident, but Victoria got very angry. She made us bring our mattress outside. She locked us out as punishment." Richard closed his eyes. He stayed very still for a moment. When he opened his eyes again, something had changed in them. "How long has this been going on?" Richard asked quietly. Emma started crying. "Since the day after the wedding. Whenever you leave for work, she is mean to us. She yells at us. She makes us clean all day. She locks the food away and only gives us bread. She said if we told you, you would send us away to boarding school." Richard's hands curled into fists. He stood up and turned to Victoria. "Get out," Richard said. "Richard, please," Victoria said. She reached for his arm. "Let me explain. I lost my temper. It was one mistake. Everyone makes mistakes." Richard jerked his arm away from her touch. "This was not one mistake. You have been abusing my daughters for 6 months." "I have not," Victoria cried. "I love those girls." "You locked them outside in a storm," Richard said. His voice rose to a shout. "You left 3 8-year-old children outside in freezing rain for hours. One of them has asthma. They could have died." "I was going to bring them inside soon," Victoria said. But her voice was weak. She knew Richard did not believe her. "Liar," Richard said. "You sat in here drinking wine while they suffered. I saw you." Victoria's face changed. The fake tears stopped. Her expression hardened. They needed to learn respect. They needed discipline. You spoil them. Someone has to teach them consequences. "By leaving them outside to freeze," Richard shouted. "That is not discipline. That is torture. That is abuse." Victoria realized she had said too much. She tried to backtrack. "I did not mean that. I am just upset. You are confusing me." "No," Richard said. "You finally told the truth. You are cruel. You hurt my daughters. And you are never coming near them again." He pulled his phone from his pocket. He dialed 911. Victoria's eyes went wide. "What are you doing?" "What I should have done months ago if I had been paying attention," Richard said. A voice came through the phone. 911. "What is your emergency?" "My name is Richard Thompson. I live at 347 Maple Drive in Beverly Hills. I need police and an ambulance. My 3 daughters have been abused. They have hypothermia. They need medical help immediately." "No!" Victoria shouted. She ran toward Richard and tried to grab the phone. Richard pushed her away. "The person who hurt them is still in my house. I need police here now." "Officers are on their way, sir," the operator said. "Please stay on the line. How old are your daughters?" 8 years old. They are triplets. They were locked outside in the rain for hours. Keep them warm. Do not try to warm them up too quickly. Just keep them covered with blankets. The ambulance will be there in approximately 10 minutes. "Thank you," Richard said. He hung up and looked at Victoria. She stood frozen in the middle of the living room. Her face had gone from pale to red. "You are going to regret this," Victoria said. Her voice was different now, cold and full of hate. "You are choosing those brats over me?" "Those brats are my daughters," Richard said, "and yes, I will choose them every single time." Victoria's beautiful face twisted into something ugly. "You will pay for this. I will tell everyone you are an unfit father. I will make sure you lose everything." "Do whatever you want," Richard said, "but you will never touch my daughters again." Sirens sounded in the distance, getting closer. Victoria grabbed her purse from the table. She walked toward the door. As she passed Richard, she leaned close and hissed, "You have no idea who you are dealing with." Then she walked out into the rain. Richard slammed the door behind her and locked it. He went back to the couch where his 3 daughters huddled under blankets. They were still shaking, still pale, still looking at him with frightened eyes. "It is over," Richard said. He knelt down and put his arms around all 3 of them. "She is gone. She will never hurt you again. I promise." Emma buried her face in her father's chest. "I was too scared to tell you." "I know," Richard said. Tears ran down his face. "I am so sorry. I should have seen it. I should have protected you." The sirens grew louder. Red and blue lights flashed through the windows. Richard held his daughters and waited for help to arrive. 2 police cars pulled up outside the mansion. Their red and blue lights lit up the white walls of the house. An ambulance arrived right behind them. Richard heard car doors slamming, footsteps running toward the house. Someone knocked hard on the front door. "Police! Mr. Thompson?" Richard gently moved away from his daughters. "Stay here. I will be right back." He walked to the door and opened it. 2 police officers stood there in dark blue uniforms. Behind them, paramedics were pulling equipment from the ambulance. "I am Officer Martinez," said a tall woman with dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. "This is Officer Johnson. You called about your daughters?" "Yes," Richard said. "They are on the couch. They were locked outside in the rain for hours. They are freezing." The officers came inside. The paramedics followed with medical bags and equipment. One paramedic was a young man with red hair. The other was an older woman with gray hair and kind eyes. They went straight to the couch. "Hello, girls," the woman said gently. "My name is Sarah. This is my partner, Mike. We are going to check on you and make you feel better. Is that okay?" Emma nodded weakly. Lily could only cough. Sophie stared with glassy eyes. Sarah knelt down and pulled out a thermometer. "I need to check your temperature, sweetheart. This will just take a second." She put the thermometer in Emma's ear. It beeped. Sarah looked at the reading and her face became serious. "Her temperature is 89 degrees, Sarah said to Mike. "That is severe hypothermia." Mike checked Lily's temperature next, 88.5. Then Sophie's, 89.2. Sarah looked at Richard. "We need to get them to the hospital immediately. They need to be warmed up slowly and carefully. Hypothermia this severe is very dangerous." Richard felt his stomach drop. "Will they be okay?" "We will take good care of them," Sarah said. "But we need to go now." Officer Martinez stepped forward. "Mr. Thompson, I need to ask you some questions while the paramedics prepare your daughters for transport. Can you tell me exactly what happened tonight?" Richard took a deep breath. He told Officer Martinez everything. He told her about his trip to New York, about calling home and getting no answer, about the terrible feeling he had, about flying home early, about driving up and seeing his daughters in the backyard. Officer Martinez wrote everything down in a small notebook. "And who locked them outside?" "My wife," Victoria Thompson. She was my wife. I want a divorce. Where is she now? She left about 10 minutes ago, before you arrived. Officer Johnson stepped forward. He was younger than Officer Martinez, with blonde hair and blue eyes. Do you know where she might have gone? Maybe to her sister's apartment in Santa Monica, Richard said. I can give you the address. Please do, Officer Johnson said. Richard gave them the address. Officer Johnson wrote it down. Mr. Thompson, Officer Martinez said carefully, your daughter Emma said this has been going on for 6 months. Is that true? Richard's throat tightened. I did not know. I swear I did not know. Victoria acted completely different when I was home. The girls tried to tell me today at breakfast, but Victoria cut them off. I should have seen it. I should have known something was wrong. It is not uncommon for abusers to hide their behavior, Officer Martinez said. Children are often too frightened to speak up, especially when threatened. Sarah and Mike had wrapped the girls in special silver blankets. These blankets would help their bodies warm up slowly. We are ready to transport, Sarah said. Mr. Thompson, you can ride with us in the ambulance. Richard nodded. He turned to the officers. Are you going to arrest Victoria? Yes, Officer Martinez said. We will go to the Santa Monica address right now. If she is there, we will take her into custody tonight. She will be charged with child endangerment at minimum, possibly more depending on what the doctors find. Good, Richard said. Mike and Sarah wheeled in a stretcher. They carefully lifted Emma onto it. She looked so small on the big stretcher. Daddy? Emma said weakly. I am right here, Richard said. He took her hand. I am not leaving you. Officer Johnson spoke into his radio. Dispatch, we need Child Protective Services notified. 3 victims, all 8 years old, severe hypothermia, and suspected long-term abuse. Richard's head snapped up. Child Protective Services? Are you going to take my daughters away? No, Officer Martinez said quickly. CPS just needs to be informed of any child abuse cases. They will investigate. But since you are the protective parent and the abuser has been removed from the home, there should be no issue. Richard relaxed slightly. Okay, I understand. They loaded Emma into the ambulance. Then they went back for Lily and Sophie. The ambulance was big enough to fit all 3 stretchers side by side. Richard climbed in and sat on a small bench seat at the back. Sarah and Mike worked around him, checking the girls' vital signs and adjusting their silver blankets. Where are we going? Richard asked. Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in West Hollywood, Sarah said. It is the closest hospital, and they have an excellent pediatric department. The ambulance doors closed. The sirens turned on. They started moving. Richard watched his daughters on the stretchers. Their eyes were closed now. Their faces were still so pale. Lily's breathing sounded terrible. Each breath rattled in her chest. She has asthma, Richard said. She needs her inhaler. We have medication for her, Mike said. He prepared a breathing treatment and held a mask over Lily's face. This will help open her airways. The ambulance drove fast through the empty streets of Beverly Hills. The sirens wailed. Richard held Emma's hand on one side and Sophie's hand on the other. He could not reach Lily from where he sat, but he kept his eyes on her. Stay with me, girls, Richard said. Stay strong. We are almost there. The drive felt like it took forever, but was probably only 15 minutes. The ambulance pulled up to the emergency room entrance at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. The back doors opened. Nurses and doctors in scrubs were already waiting. Sarah had called ahead to tell them they were coming. 3 8-year-old females with severe hypothermia, Sarah called out as they unloaded the stretchers. Body temperatures between 88 and 89 degrees, exposure to cold rain for approximately 4 hours. The medical team moved fast. They wheeled the 3 stretchers through automatic doors into the bright hospital. Richard ran after them. A nurse stopped him gently. Sir, are you the father? Yes, Richard Thompson. Come with me. We need to get some information while the doctors examine your daughters. I want to stay with them, Richard said. I know. the nurse said kindly. She was older with gray hair and a soft voice. But right now the doctors need space to work. You can see them very soon, I promise. Richard watched helplessly as his daughters were wheeled down 3 different hallways into 3 different examination rooms. The nurse led him to a small desk. I just need you to fill out some paperwork. What are their names? Emma, Lily, and Sophie Thompson. They are triplets. Birth dates? Richard told her. He answered all her questions about medical history and insurance. His hands shook as he signed forms. The police said they were locked outside in the rain, the nurse said carefully. Is that correct? Yes, Richard said. By my wife, my soon-to-be ex-wife. I am so sorry, the nurse said. The doctors will examine them thoroughly. We will document everything. The police will want photographs of their condition. Richard put his head in his hands. He felt like he might be sick. Mr. Thompson, the nurse said, your daughters are in good hands now. Dr. Patricia Chen is one of our best pediatricians. She is examining Emma right now. Can I see them? Richard asked. Yes, come with me. The nurse led Richard down a hallway. She stopped at the first examination room and knocked softly. Doctor, Chen? Emma's father is here. The door opened. A woman in a white coat stood there. She was in her 40s with black hair and dark eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Mr. Thompson, she said, I am Dr. Chen. Come in. Richard entered the room. Emma lay on an examination table. She was covered in warm blankets. Wires connected her to machines that beeped softly. Her eyes were open. Daddy, Emma said. Her voice was hoarse but stronger than before. Richard went to her side and took her hand. I am here, baby. Dr. Chen checked the machines. Emma's temperature is coming up slowly. That is good. We are warming her carefully to avoid shocking her system. Will she be okay? Richard asked. Yes, Dr. Chen said. But she will need to stay in the hospital for observation. At least 2 days, maybe more. She turned to Emma and spoke gently. Emma, I need to ask you some questions. Is that okay? Emma nodded. How long were you outside in the rain? I do not know, Emma said. A long time. It felt like forever. Did you want to go outside? Emma shook her head. No, Victoria made us. Dr. Chen wrote notes on a tablet. Has Victoria hurt you before tonight? Emma looked at her father. Richard squeezed her hand. It is safe now. You can tell the truth. Emma's eyes filled with tears. She hurts us all the time when Daddy is gone. She yells at us. She makes us clean for hours. She locks the food away. She only gives us bread. Richard felt tears running down his own face. Dr. Chen's expression remained calm and professional, but her eyes showed anger. Thank you for telling me, Emma. You are very brave. She turned to Richard. I am required by law to report this to the police. Good, Richard said. I want Victoria arrested tonight. Dr. Chen left the examination room to call the police. Richard stayed with Emma, holding her hand. Is Victoria going to come back? Emma asked quietly. No, Richard said firmly. The police are going to arrest her. She will never come near you again. Promise? Emma's voice was small. I promise, Richard said. I will protect you. I will never let anyone hurt you again. A nurse came to the door. Mr. Thompson, your other daughters are asking for you. Richard looked at Emma. Will you be okay if I check on your sisters? Emma nodded. Tell them I am okay. Tell them not to be scared. Richard kissed her forehead. I will be back soon. He followed the nurse to Lily's room first. Lily lay under warm blankets. A breathing mask covered her nose and mouth. Machines beeped steadily. A young male doctor stood next to the bed. Mr. Thompson, I am Dr. James Wilson. Lily is responding well to treatment. Her temperature is rising. The breathing treatment is helping her airways open up. Thank you, Richard said. He went to Lily's side. Hey, sweetheart. Lily looked at him with tired eyes. She could not speak because of the mask, but she reached for his hand. Emma is okay, Richard said. Sophie is okay. You are all going to be fine." Lily squeezed his hand weakly. "Your daughters will need to stay here for a couple of days," Dr. Wilson said. "We need to monitor them, but they will recover physically." "Physically?" Richard asked. "What about emotionally?" Dr. Wilson's expression became serious. "That will take longer. They have been through severe trauma. They will need professional help. I recommend finding a good child psychologist." Richard nodded. "Whatever they need, I will do anything." He stayed with Lily for a few minutes. Then he went to Sophie's room. Sophie was crying. A female doctor with blonde hair was trying to comfort her. "Daddy!" Sophie sobbed when she saw Richard. Richard rushed to her and wrapped his arms around her carefully. "I am here. I am right here." "I am sorry," Sophie cried. "This is all my fault. I spilled the juice." "No," Richard said firmly. He pulled back and looked into Sophie's eyes. "Listen to me. This is not your fault. Spilling juice is an accident. Victoria is the one who did something wrong, not you." "But if I had been more careful—" "No," Richard said again. "Sophie, Victoria is an adult. Adults are supposed to take care of children, not hurt them. What she did was evil. You did nothing wrong." Sophie's crying slowed. She looked at her father with wet eyes. "Do you really mean that?" "Yes," Richard said. "I mean it with all my heart." The hours passed slowly. Richard moved between his 3 daughters' rooms. The hospital staff brought him coffee and a sandwich, but he could barely eat. At 3 o'clock in the morning, Officer Martinez arrived at the hospital. She found Richard sitting in Emma's room. "Mr. Thompson?" she said from the doorway. "Can I speak with you in the hallway?" Richard carefully moved away from Emma, who was sleeping now. He stepped into the hallway. "We found Victoria," Officer Martinez said. "She was at her sister's apartment in Santa Monica. We arrested her about 20 minutes ago." Richard felt relief wash over him. "What happens now?" "She has been charged with 3 counts of felony child endangerment," Officer Martinez said. "She is in custody. She will be arraigned tomorrow. Given the severity of the charges and the evidence, I expect the judge will deny bail." "Good," Richard said. "We will need your daughters to give statements when they are feeling better," Officer Martinez continued. "But there is no rush. We have enough evidence already. We have your statement. We have the doctor's reports. We have photographs of the girl's condition. The case is strong." "Thank you," Richard said. "Thank you for finding her so quickly." Officer Martinez nodded. "Get some rest, Mr. Thompson. Your daughters need you healthy." But Richard did not rest. He spent the night moving between the 3 rooms, checking on each daughter, making sure they were breathing, making sure they were warm, making sure they were safe. Friday morning came. The girls were sleeping. Richard stepped outside the hospital to make phone calls. First, he called his lawyer. "David, I need to file for divorce immediately, and I need a restraining order." His lawyer, David Chen, asked questions. Richard explained everything. When he finished, David was silent for a moment. "Richard, I am so sorry," David said. "I will have the divorce papers filed today. The restraining order will be in place by this afternoon." "Thank you," Richard said. Next, Richard called his business partners. He told them he would not be coming to work for a while. Maybe a long while. His daughters needed him. They understood. They told him to take all the time he needed. The girls stayed in the hospital for 2 full days. By Sunday morning, their body temperatures had returned to normal. The color had come back to their faces. Lily's breathing was much better with medication, but emotionally, they were fragile. They jumped at loud sounds. They had nightmares when they slept. They cried easily. Dr. Chen came to speak with Richard on Sunday morning. "The girls can go home today. Physically, they have recovered, but I am very concerned about the psychological trauma." "What should I do?" Richard asked. "Find a child psychologist who specializes in trauma," Dr. Chen said. "The girls need therapy, probably for a long time. They also need stability. They need to know they are safe. They need to know you will be there." "I will," Richard said. I am not going anywhere ever again." Dr. Chen smiled. That is what they need to hear. That afternoon, Richard drove his daughters home to Beverly Hills. They sat in the back seat of his SUV holding hands. Nobody spoke much. When they pulled up to the white mansion, all three girls became tense. Richard saw it in their faces. Fear. This house held bad memories now. Richard made a decision right then. "Girls, we are not staying here long. I am going to sell this house. We are going to move somewhere new, somewhere with no bad memories." "Really?" Emma asked. "Really," Richard said. "You pick where you want to live. Beach? Mountains? We can go anywhere." "The beach," Sophie said immediately. "Then the beach it is," Richard said. That afternoon, Richard called a real estate agent. By Monday, the mansion was listed for sale. Richard also called his business partners again. "I am stepping back from the company. I will consult from home, but I am not traveling anymore. I am not working long hours anymore. My daughters come first." They agreed to buy out his majority share. Richard would still make money from consulting, but he would work from home. Within 2 weeks, Richard found a smaller house in Santa Monica, 3 blocks from the beach. It had 4 bedrooms, a small yard, and a warm, cozy feeling. The girls loved it immediately. They moved out of the mansion in Beverly Hills and into the Santa Monica house. Richard hired a kind nanny named Mrs. Chen to help during the day. She was 60 years old with gray hair and a warm smile. The girls liked her right away because she was gentle and patient. Richard also found Dr. Patricia Moore, a child psychologist in West Hollywood who specialized in trauma. The girls started therapy 3 times a week. At first, therapy was hard. The girls did not want to talk about what happened. They cried a lot. They had trouble sleeping. But slowly, week by week, they started to heal. Dr. Moore taught them that the abuse was not their fault. She taught them they had the right to be safe. She taught them they could trust again. 4 months after that terrible night, Victoria's trial took place. Richard attended every day. The girls did not have to testify. The evidence was strong enough without them. Victoria's lawyer tried to argue that she had been under stress, that she made one mistake, that she deserved a second chance. But the prosecutor showed photographs of the girls in the hospital. She presented testimony from Richard, from Dr. Chen, from the paramedics. She showed medical records documenting hypothermia and malnutrition. The jury deliberated for only 2 hours. They found Victoria guilty on all 3 counts of felony child endangerment. The judge sentenced Victoria to 18 months in prison. She also issued a permanent restraining order. Victoria was never allowed to contact Richard or his daughters again. Ever. Richard sat in the courtroom and watched as Victoria was led away in handcuffs. She turned and looked at him one last time. Her face was full of hatred. Richard felt nothing. No satisfaction, no happiness, just determination to make sure his daughters felt safe for the rest of their lives. Richard left the courthouse and drove straight home to Santa Monica. The girls were waiting with Mrs. Chen in the living room of their new house. "Is it over?" Emma asked when Richard walked through the door. "It is over," Richard said. "Victoria is going to prison. She cannot hurt you anymore." Sophie started crying. Not sad tears, relief tears. Lily let out a long breath she seemed to have been holding for months. Mrs. Chen stood up from the couch. "I will make dinner," she said quietly, giving the family space. Richard sat down with his daughters. "How do you feel?" "Safe," Emma said. "For the first time in a long time I feel safe." But feeling safe and being healed were 2 different things. The weeks that followed were hard. The girls had nightmares. At least twice a week, Richard would wake up to screaming. He would run to one of their bedrooms and find Emma or Lily or Sophie sitting up in bed, crying and shaking. One night, 2 weeks after the trial, Sophie woke up screaming at 2 o'clock in the morning. Richard ran to her room. Mrs. Chen met him in the hallway. She lived in a small apartment attached to the house so she could help when needed. "I am here," Richard said, turning on Sophie's light. "You are safe. It was just a dream." Sophie was crying so hard she could barely breathe. "I dreamed Victoria came back. She locked us outside again. But this time you did not come home. Nobody came." Richard sat on the bed and pulled Sophie into his arms. "I will always come home. Always. That will never happen again." Mrs. Chen brought a glass of warm milk. Sophie drank it slowly, her hands shaking. "Can I sleep in your room tonight, Daddy?" Sophie asked. "Of course," Richard said. He carried Sophie to his room and tucked her into the big bed. He lay down next to her and held her hand until she fell asleep again. This happened often in the first months. The girls took turns sleeping in Richard's room. He did not mind, whatever they needed. Therapy helped, but it was slow. Dr. Patricia Moore was patient and kind. She had a small office in West Hollywood with comfortable couches and soft lighting. In one session, Dr. Moore spoke with Emma alone. Richard waited in the waiting room. "Emma, can you tell me how you feel when your dad leaves the house?" Dr. Moore asked. Emma picked at a loose thread on the couch cushion. "Scared." "What are you scared of?" "That he will not come back," Emma said quietly. "Or that something bad will happen while he is gone." "But your dad comes back every time, right?" Dr. Moore said gently. "When he goes to the store or to a meeting, he always comes back." "I know," Emma said, "but my brain does not believe it yet." Dr. Moore nodded. "That makes sense. Your brain learned that bad things happen when your dad leaves. It will take time for your brain to learn something new, to learn that you are safe now." "How long?" Emma asked. "Everyone is different," Dr. Moore said. "But Emma, you are already doing so well. You are so brave." Emma did not feel brave. She felt scared all the time. But she was trying. Lily's healing looked different. She stopped talking almost completely for the first month after the trial. She would nod or shake her head to answer questions, but she would not use words. Dr. Moore worked with her using art therapy. Lily drew pictures instead of talking. Her pictures showed dark houses and rain and locked doors. Dr. Moore hung each picture on the wall and asked Lily questions about them. Slowly, Lily started answering. Just one word at first, then 2 words, then full sentences. One day, 6 weeks after the trial, Lily sang. Richard was making breakfast when he heard it. A soft voice coming from Lily's bedroom. She was singing a song their mother used to sing, "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star." Richard stood in the kitchen and cried. Happy tears this time. Sophie's biggest struggle was guilt. She blamed herself for everything. During therapy sessions, she apologized constantly. "I am sorry I am crying," Sophie would say. "You do not need to apologize for crying," Dr. Moore said. "Crying is healthy. Crying is how we release sadness." "I'm sorry I am taking up your time," Sophie said. "Sophie, this is my job. I want to be here. I want to help you." Dr. Moore gave Sophie homework. Every night, Sophie had to write down 3 things that were not her fault, things that happened that day. Sophie's list the first night said, "It rained today. That was not my fault." Mrs. Chen burned the toast. That was not my fault. Emma dropped her book. That was not my fault. Richard read the list, and his heart broke. His daughter had been trained to think everything was her fault. But slowly, the lists changed. After a few weeks, Sophie wrote, "What Victoria did was not my fault. Spilling the juice was an accident. Accidents are not bad. I am a good person." Richard kept every list. He put them in a special box to show Sophie someday how far she had come. Mrs. Chen was a gift to the family. She cooked healthy meals. She helped the girls with homework. She never yelled. She never got angry. She was patient and calm and steady. One afternoon, Emma accidentally knocked over a glass of orange juice. It spilled across the kitchen table and onto the floor. Emma froze. Her face went white. She started shaking. "I am sorry," Emma whispered. "I am so sorry. I will clean it up. Please do not be mad." Mrs. Chen walked over calmly. "Emma, it is okay. It was an accident. "You are not angry?" Emma asked, her voice trembling. "Of course not," Mrs. Chen said. She handed Emma some paper towels. "Accidents happen. We clean them up and move on. No punishment, no yelling, just cleaning up." Emma burst into tears. Mrs. Chen hugged her while she cried. "You are safe here," Mrs. Chen said. "We do not punish accidents in this house." Richard made big changes in his life. He worked from home now, only a few hours a day. He was always there when the girls woke up, always there for breakfast, always there to drive them to school, always there to pick them up, always there for dinner, always there for bedtime. He coached their soccer team. The girls joined a league in Santa Monica. At first, they were nervous around the other children, but slowly, they made friends. Richard never missed a practice or a game. He stood on the sideline in his coach's jacket and cheered for every girl on the team. One Saturday, Sophie scored her first goal. She kicked the ball and it flew past the goalkeeper into the net. Sophie's face lit up with surprise and joy. She jumped up and down. Her dimple showed for the first time in months. Richard ran onto the field and picked her up in a hug. "You did it! I am so proud of you!" Sophie laughed. A real, happy laugh. That night, Richard tucked Sophie into bed. "I saw you smile today. A real smile." "I forgot what it felt like to be happy," Sophie said. "But today I remembered." Richard kissed her forehead. "You deserve to be happy every single day." The girls still had hard days. Days when the memories came back. Days when they were sad or scared or angry. But the hard days became less frequent. And between the hard days were good days. Days of laughter. Days of playing at the beach. Days of normal, beautiful childhood moments. 3 months after the trial, Emma started painting again. She set up an easel in the backyard of the Santa Monica house. She painted the ocean. She painted birds. She painted bright, colorful pictures full of light. Richard hung every painting on the walls of their house. Their home filled with Emma's art. Lily joined the school choir. Her voice, which had been silent for so long, rang out clear and strong when she sang. She had a solo in the spring concert. Richard sat in the front row and cried through the whole song. Sophie started telling jokes again. She made her sisters laugh. She made Mrs. Chen laugh. She made Richard laugh until his stomach hurt. One evening, 6 months after that terrible night in the rain, the family sat on the beach watching the sunset. The sky turned orange and pink and purple. "Daddy?" Emma said. "Yes?" "I am happy," Emma said. "I did not think I would ever feel happy again. But I do." Richard put his arm around her. "I am happy too." "Me too," Lily said. "Me 3, Sophie added. They sat together and watched the sun sink into the ocean. The waves rolled in gently. Children played in the sand nearby. Everything felt peaceful. Richard knew they were not completely healed. Healing from trauma takes years, not months. They would still have hard days ahead. They would still have nightmares sometimes. They would still need therapy. But they were together. They were safe. They were loved. And that was enough. The next day was Monday. Richard drove the girls to school at Ocean View Elementary in Santa Monica. They had transferred from their old school in Beverly Hills. Too many bad memories there. Emma, Lily, and Sophie climbed out of the car. They wore matching backpacks but different colored shirts. Emma wore green. Lily wore purple. Sophie wore pink. "Have a good day," Richard said. "I will be right here at 3 o'clock to pick you up." "Promise?" Emma asked. She still asked this every morning. "Promise," Richard said. He always gave the same answer. The girls walked toward the school building. Richard watched until they went inside. Then he drove home. Mrs. Chen was in the kitchen making bread when Richard arrived. The house smelled warm and sweet. "The girls seem happy," Mrs. Chen said. "They are getting better," Richard said. "Slowly, but surely." His phone rang. The caller ID said Beverly Hills Police Department. Richard answered quickly. "Mr. Thompson, this is Detective Sarah Williams. I worked on your daughter's case." "Yes, I remember," Richard said. "Is everything okay?" "Everything is fine," Detective Williams said. "I am calling because we have received several other reports of child abuse in the Beverly Hills area in the past few months. When we interview these children, many of them say they heard about your daughter's story. Your daughter's speaking up gave them courage to speak up too." Richard sat down heavily in a kitchen chair. "Really?" "Yes," Detective Williams said. "Your family's case has had a ripple effect. Children are learning they have a voice. Parents are paying more attention. Teachers are watching for warning signs. You and your daughters have helped more people than you know." After the call ended, Richard sat in silence. Mrs. Chen put a cup of coffee in front of him. "That was quite a phone call," she said. "Other children are speaking up because my daughters spoke up," Richard said. "I did not expect that." "Your girls are brave," Mrs. Chen said, "and so are you." That evening at dinner, Richard told the girls about the phone call. "Really?" Emma asked. "Other kids told someone because of us?" "Yes," Richard said. "You three are helping people just by telling your truth." Sophie looked down at her plate. "I wish we could help more kids." Richard had an idea. It came to him suddenly and clearly. "Maybe we can." All three girls looked up at him. "What if we started a foundation?" Richard said. "To help children who are being abused. We could help them escape dangerous homes. We could provide them with therapy and support." "How would we do that?" Lily asked. "I have money from selling my company," Richard said. "We could use it to help others instead of just ourselves. We could name it after your mother, Catherine's Light Foundation." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Mom would like that." "Can we help too?" Sophie asked. "Not just you?" "Of course," Richard said. "This would be our family project, all of us together." Over the next few months, Richard worked with lawyers to set up the foundation. Catherine's Light Foundation became official in September, 8 months after that terrible night. The foundation did 3 things. First, it provided emergency housing for children removed from abusive homes. Second, it paid for therapy for children who could not afford it. Third, it educated schools and communities about recognizing abuse. The foundation's first event was in October, a fundraiser dinner at a hotel in Santa Monica. Richard was nervous. He did not like public speaking, but this was important. Emma, Lily, and Sophie wore matching blue dresses. They sat at a table in the front of the room while Richard stood at a podium and spoke to 100 people. "My name is Richard Thompson," he said. His voice shook slightly. 8 months ago, my 3 daughters almost died because I was not paying attention. I brought an abuser into our home. I left my children alone with her. I did not see the signs that something was wrong. The room was completely silent. Everyone listened. "But my daughters survived," Richard continued. "And they taught me something important. Children have voices. We just need to listen. Catherine's Light Foundation exists to help children speak up and to make sure adults listen." People clapped. Several women in the audience were crying. Then Emma stood up. She walked to the podium. Richard had not expected this. They had not planned for the girls to speak. "Can I say something?" Emma asked quietly into the microphone. "Of course," Richard said. Emma looked out at all the faces watching her. She was 9 years old now, small and thin, but her voice was steady. "My sisters and I were too scared to tell anyone what was happening to us," Emma said. "We thought nobody would believe us. We thought we would get in trouble. But we were wrong. When we finally told the truth, people helped us." She paused and took a deep breath. "If you are a kid and someone is hurting you, please tell someone," Emma said. "Tell a teacher. Tell a neighbor. Tell anyone. Keep telling until someone listens. You deserve to be safe." Lily stood up and joined Emma at the podium. Then Sophie. The 3 girls stood together. "We want to help other kids," Lily said into the microphone. Her voice was soft but clear. "So they do not have to be as scared as we were. Nobody should hurt children. Sophie added. And if they do, they should go to jail. The room erupted in applause. People stood up. Some were crying. Others were smiling. Richard stood behind his daughters with tears running down his face. He had never been more proud. After the event, a woman approached the family. She was in her 30s with red hair and kind eyes. "My name is Jennifer Martinez," she said. "I am a social worker. I work with abused children every day. What you are doing is so important." "Thank you," Richard said. Jennifer looked at the girls. "Would you three ever be willing to speak at schools, to teach other children about recognizing abuse and asking for help?" Emma, Lily, and Sophie looked at each other. Then they looked at their father. "Can we, Dad?" Emma asked. "If you want to," Richard said, "but only if you feel ready." "I think we are ready," Emma said. Over the next year, the girls spoke at 5 different schools in the Los Angeles area. They told their story. They answered questions. They helped other children understand that abuse is never the child's fault. After one presentation at a school in Pasadena, a 10-year-old girl came up to Emma. "My stepdad hurts me," the girl whispered, "but I have been too scared to tell anyone." Emma took the girl's hand. "You just told me. That was brave. Will you tell a teacher with me?" The girl nodded. Emma brought her to the school counselor. The girl told her story. The counselor called Child Protective Services. The girl was removed from her home that day and placed somewhere safe. Emma came home that evening and hugged Richard tight. "We saved someone today," Emma said. "A girl told me her stepdad was hurting her. She is safe now." Richard held his daughter and cried, "You are amazing. All 3 of you are amazing." Not every day was good. The girls still had moments of sadness. They still had nightmares sometimes. They still went to therapy every week. But they also had joy. They played soccer. They went to the beach. They had sleepovers with friends. They celebrated birthdays and holidays. On the 1-year anniversary of that terrible night, Richard did not want the girls to remember it. But Emma brought it up at breakfast. "It has been 1 year," Emma said quietly. "I know," Richard said. "I have been thinking about it," Emma said. "That night was the worst night of my life, but it also changed everything. If that had not happened, Victoria would still be hurting us. We would still be suffering in silence." "Sometimes bad things lead to good things," Lily added. "We are stronger now," Sophie said. "We are helping people. Mom would be proud." Richard looked at his 3 daughters. They were 9 years old, but they had wisdom beyond their years. Trauma had forced them to grow up too fast, but they had not let it destroy them. They had turned their pain into purpose. "Your mom would be so proud," Richard said, "and so am I." That afternoon, the family went to a nursery and bought a cherry blossom tree. They brought it home and planted it in their backyard together. "This tree represents our new life," Richard said as they packed soil around the roots. "It will grow strong. Every spring it will bloom with beautiful flowers, just like our family." The girls took turns watering the small tree. It was only 4 feet tall, thin, and delicate, but it was alive. It would grow. That night, Richard tucked each daughter into bed. They each had their own room now, decorated however they wanted. Emma's room was full of art supplies. Lily's room had a keyboard and music books. Sophie's room had shelves full of joke books and stuffed animals. But even though they had separate rooms, the girls still liked to sleep with their beds close to the shared walls, so they could talk to each other before sleep, so they knew they were not alone. Richard sat on Emma's bed last, as he always did. "Dad?" Emma said. "Yes?" "I forgive Victoria," Emma said quietly. Richard was surprised. "You do?" "Yes," Emma said. "Not because she deserves it, but because I do not want to carry anger anymore. Anger is heavy. Forgiveness makes me feel light." Richard kissed her forehead. "You are wise beyond your years." "I learned it from Dr. Moore," Emma said with a small smile. Richard turned off the light and walked downstairs. He stood at the window and looked out at the small cherry blossom tree in the backyard. In the moonlight, it looked fragile and strong at the same time, just like his daughters. 2 years had passed since that night. The cherry blossom tree in the backyard had grown taller, its branches reached toward the sky. Spring had arrived and the tree was covered in delicate pink flowers. Emma, Lily, and Sophie were 10 years old now. They stood in the backyard on a sunny Saturday morning in April, looking at the blooming tree. "It is beautiful," Lily said, "just like Dad said it would be." "Every year it gets bigger," Emma observed, "and stronger." Sophie touched one of the pink blossoms gently. "Just like us." Richard watched from the kitchen window. Mrs. Chen stood beside him, drying dishes. "Those girls have come so far," Mrs. Chen said. "Yes," Richard agreed. "Sometimes I can hardly believe it." The nightmares had stopped months ago. The girls still went to therapy, but only once a month now instead of 3 times a week. They smiled easily. They laughed often. They were children again. Richard walked outside to join them. "What do you girls want to do today?" "Can we go to the beach?" Sophie asked. "Anything you want," Richard said. An hour later, the family walked along the Santa Monica beach. The sand was warm under their feet. The ocean sparkled in the sunlight. Other families played nearby. Dogs ran through the waves. Emma stopped walking and looked out at the horizon. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Always," Richard said. "Do you think about that night a lot?" Emma asked. Richard was quiet for a moment. "Yes, every day." "Me too," Emma said, "but not in a bad way anymore. I think about how you came home, how you saved us, how you kept your promise to protect us." "I almost did not come home," Richard said. His voice was heavy with emotion. "If I had waited until Sunday like I planned, I do not know what would have happened." "But you did come home," Lily said. "You listened to your instinct. You knew something was wrong." "I just wish I had known sooner," Richard said. "I wish I had seen the signs before that night." Sophie took her father's hand. "You see them now. That is what matters. You help other parents see the signs too through the foundation." She was right. Catherine's Light Foundation had grown significantly in 2 years. They had helped 37 children escape abusive homes. They had provided therapy for over 100 children. They had trained teachers in 50 schools across California to recognize signs of abuse. The foundation had become Richard's life work. He ran it from his home office. Emma, Lily, and Sophie were the faces of the foundation. They spoke at events. They shared their story. They gave other children hope. Last month, the foundation received a letter from a 12-year-old boy in Sacramento. He wrote that hearing Emma speak at his school gave him courage to tell a teacher that his uncle was hurting him. The boy was now living safely with his grandmother. Emma kept that letter in a box under her bed. She kept all the letters they received, dozens of them. Each one from a child who spoke up because the Thompson sisters spoke up first. "We have a meeting on Tuesday," Richard said as they walked along the beach. "At a school in Long Beach. Are you girls still okay with speaking?" "Yes," all 3 said together. They were not scared of speaking anymore. At first, it had been terrifying to stand in front of crowds and tell their story. But each time they spoke, they saw the impact. They saw children paying attention. They saw teachers learning. They saw parents understanding. Their story mattered. Their pain had purpose. Later that afternoon, the family returned home. Mrs. Chen had prepared lunch, sandwiches, fruit, and homemade lemonade. They ate on the patio in the backyard under the blooming cherry blossom tree. Richard's phone buzzed. He looked at the message and smiled. "What is it?" Emma asked. "The mayor of Los Angeles wants to give Catherine's Light Foundation an award," Richard said, "for community service." "Really?" Sophie's eyes went wide. "Yes, there will be a ceremony next month. They want you girls to be there." "Will we have to speak?" Lily asked. She was still the shyest of the 3. "Only if you want to," Richard said. Lily thought for a moment. "I think I want to," I want people to know that quiet kids can be strong too." Richard reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "You are the strongest person I know." After lunch, the girls played soccer in the backyard. Richard sat on the patio and watched. He still coached their team. They had won 3 games this season already. Mrs. Chen brought him a cup of coffee and sat down beside him. "You are a good father," she said. "I am trying," Richard said. "Every day I am trying to be better than I was yesterday." "That is all anyone can do," Mrs. Chen said. As the sun began to set, Richard called the girls inside. It was time for dinner. They ate together at the kitchen table, talking and laughing. This was Richard's favorite time of day, when everyone was together, when everyone was safe, when everyone was happy. After dinner, Emma went to her room to paint. Lily practiced piano. Sophie read a joke book and tested new jokes on Mrs. Chen. At 8 o'clock, Richard tucked each daughter into bed just as he did every night. He went to Sophie's room first. She was already under the covers, hugging a stuffed bear. "Good night, my Sophie," Richard said, kissing her forehead. "Good night, Dad. I love you. I love you more than all the stars in the sky." Sophie smiled. "That is what Grandma used to say." "I know," Richard said. "Your mother said it to you every night. Now I say it." Next was Lily's room. She was reading a book about music. "Time for sleep," Richard said. Lily put the book on her nightstand. "Dad, I have a solo in the spring concert next week. Will you come?" "I would not miss it for anything in the world," Richard said. "Promise?" "Promise." He kissed her goodnight and turned off her light. Finally, he went to Emma's room. She was sitting up in bed, sketching in a notebook. "What are you drawing?" Richard asked. Emma turned the notebook to show him. She had drawn their family under the cherry blossom tree. Everyone was smiling. "It is perfect," Richard said. Emma set the notebook aside. "Dad, I have been thinking. When I grow up, I want to be a therapist. Like Dr. Moore. I want to help kids who have been hurt." Richard sat on the edge of her bed. "You would be amazing at that." "I want to use what happened to me to help others," Emma said. "That is how we win. We do not let the bad thing destroy us. We use it to create good things." "When did you become so wise?" Richard asked. Emma smiled. "I have a really good dad who taught me." Richard felt tears in his eyes. "I love you, Emma. I love you too, Dad." He kissed her goodnight and turned off the light, but he paused at the door. "Emma? Yes?" "Thank you for being brave that night," Richard said. "Thank you for holding on. Thank you for keeping your sisters alive until I got there." "You are welcome," Emma said quietly. "But thank you for coming home." Richard closed the door gently. He walked downstairs to the living room. He stood at the window and looked out at the backyard. The cherry blossom tree was a dark silhouette against the evening sky. 2 years ago, his daughters had almost died on the grass beneath that tree. Tonight, they slept safely in warm beds. They had survived. They had healed. They were helping others survive and heal too. Richard thought about Catherine, his first wife. He thought about how she would feel if she could see their daughters now. Strong, brave, kind, compassionate. "We did it, Catherine," Richard whispered. "Our girls are okay." He did not believe in ghosts or spirits, but in that moment he felt a warmth in his chest, a feeling of peace. Maybe it was Catherine. Maybe it was just his own heart finally believing that everything would be okay. Richard walked upstairs to his own bedroom. He looked in on each daughter one more time as he did every night. Emma slept curled on her side. Lily slept on her back with one arm over her head. Sophie slept hugging her stuffed bear. All 3 were breathing steadily. All 3 were safe. All 3 were loved. Richard went to bed but left his door open, as he always did, so he could hear if any of the girls needed him in the night. The house was quiet and peaceful. Outside, a gentle breeze rustled the branches of the cherry blossom tree. Pink petals drifted down to the grass. The same grass where 3 little girls once sat in freezing rain. The same grass where they cried and shook and almost gave up hope. But they did not give up. They held on to each other. They survived the long night. They waited for rescue. And rescue came. Now, 2 years later, that grass grew green and healthy. The tree bloomed with life. And in the house, a family slept peacefully. Not a perfect family. They still had hard days. They still remembered the trauma. They still carried scars that would never fully disappear. But they were together. They were healing. They were helping others. They were creating light from darkness. And in the end, that was enough. That was everything. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen.